I'll be doing the pathophysiology and the comparison of this drug, santoninib. So next slide. So as we saw, there are many symptoms of these drugs which are caused due to worms, and one of which is the convulsions. So the convulsions are caused due to worms in this case, and Boric has said that the worms are Ascaris and threadworms and not tapeworms. So tapeworms causes neurocysticercosis. So in this drug, we don't have neurocysticercosis, which is caused by tapeworms, because usually when we see convulsions caused by parasitic infection, so usually we think that the parasite is tapeworms, which causes the seizures. But in this case, the seizures are not caused by the tapeworms, but because of the Ascaris and threadworms. And although this is rare, it is extremely rare that convulsions are caused by Ascaris, but it is seen in this case. So this drug is a very, very rare case of Ascaris. So the seizures have been described in virtually every parasitic infection, and the most common are Taenia solium, that is tapeworms, and falciparum. So in this case, in this case, the CT scan and MRI won't show any lesions in the brain. The MRI of brain will be completely normal in this case. In this case, the seizures are caused by Ascaris, whereas if they are caused by tapeworms, we can see the cysts which are present in the brain. All right, so here the Ascaris, these worms they themselves are not present inside the brain. They are not localized there. They are present in the GIT only, but the effect is seen as encephalopathy. So next slide, here we will see a case of encephalopathy as a presenting feature of Ascariasis in a child. He's a 5-year-old boy and presented with 2 generalized tonic-clonic convulsions lasting 5-10 minutes without consciousness. So there was a vague history of vague periumbilical abdominal pain since 1 day, and there was no history of fever, vomiting, diarrhea, head trauma, or drug intake. No past history of convulsions. So the CT and MRI was completely normal, but stool examination revealed eggs of Ascaris lumbricoids, and USG also revealed multiple worms in the jejunum. So the diagnosis of this case was acute encephalopathy secondary to Ascariasis, which is again very, very rarely seen. So any idea if the worms are themselves not present in the brain? So what is causing the seizures? What is the cause of seizures themselves? Any idea? Any guess? I'm able to see the chat box, so if anybody wants to answer. Because these worms are not present in the brain. So what is causing the seizures? Any idea? Okay. So Jinal doesn't know. Anybody else? Okay, so we don't have an idea. Multiple stimulation. What do you mean by stimulation? What is stimulating? Because the worms themselves aren't stimulating the brain or any nerve. So what is stimulating? Vijeta, you are close actually, but what exactly is it? Nerves get, yeah, that is seizures. If the nerves get fired simultaneously, that is the meaning of seizures. But what is causing here in this case? We know that the worms are causing it, right? But the worms are themselves not present in the brain like tapeworms. Tapeworms themselves, they form cysts in the brains and that causes seizures. But in this case, in Ascaris or threadworm infestation, we don't have the worms up there. So what is causing the nerves to fire simultaneously? Exactly, Bhumika is the right answer. Toxic substances from the worm. There is no trauma, Amna. No, there is no head trauma in this case. But Bhumika got the right answer. The worms, they secrete toxins or metabolites. We'll see the next page. So the pathophysiology is actually unclear, but there are hypotheses. So according to them, the effects of the toxins produced by these worms or their metabolites that might be causing the convulsions. Or it could be the immune reaction the hypersensitivity reaction, type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. So either it is that or it is the toxins and the metabolites produced by the worms. So yeah, so that is causing the seizures in this case. Next slide. Now we saw what causes, how the convulsions are exactly caused. Now we'll see the abdominal pain, vomiting, and malnutrition. So in this case, because the ascariasis they are quite big worms and they can block, they can obstruct the intestinal lumen. So a tangled mass of worms resulting from heavy infection can cause the bowel, particularly in children. And apparently migrating worms occasionally obstruct. So first it obstructs the intestinal lumen. Now that causes the abdominal pain. Now, how to differentiate this from threadworms? The threadworms are very, very tiny compared to ascaris. Ascaris are big. We can see them with a naked eye. So these are big and they can obstruct the intestines, whereas threadworms are small and they don't obstruct the. We'll see threadworms further, but here just to compare the two, the threadworms are so small that they don't obstruct the intestine. So in case of threadworms, we won't have abdominal pain. But here, since the worms are big, they obstruct, they completely block the intestinal lumen. That causes the abdominal pain and colic, etc. And if these worms, they obstruct the biliary or pancreatic ducts, the cholecystitis or pancreatitis. Cholangitis and liver abscess peritonitis are also less common. These are less common, but they can also be present. So cholangitis is obstruction of the bile ducts, inflammation of the bile ducts themselves. So these can also be seen, but very rare. So these causes cramping, abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting. And moderate infections can even lead to undernutrition in children. So what exactly causes the undernutrition? There are three things. First, that there is a competition for nutrients. All right, so if the worms themselves are taking everything, so the body doesn't have nothing, there is no nutrition for the body. Second, because these worms are, we have studied in parasitology in second year that they puncture the intestines, they make holes in the intestines. So that causes that affects the absorption. And thirdly, the appetite itself is decreased. So next slide. Now we already know the Ascaris life cycle, but in short, when Ascaris enters in the GIT, first it lays eggs, all right? So then it hatches into larvae in the intestines. They puncture the intestines, they enter the circulation, the portal circulation. So via the blood, it is carried to the heart, via heart to the lungs. Now here, these larvae, they mature and grow in size. For them, it's like a trip to a hill station, very nice oxygen-rich environment they get. So after their trip is complete, they've had their little vacation. Now they enter the alveoli. They are grown up now. So they enter the alveoli, they puncture the alveoli, they climb up the bronchial tract, and they enter the pharynx, from where they may, go to nose or ears. In some cases, we see that these worms also come out of ears and nose. So here they can do that, and they are swallowed inside. So they are swallowed into the esophagus, into stomach, and by the time they reach the intestines, they are big enough, and they reproduce there. So while they are passing through the respiratory tract, it causes respiratory symptoms, coughing, wheezing, hemoptysis, and other respiratory symptoms. So now we know what causes the abdominal pain, that is the obstruction caused by the worms. What causes malnutrition? Three reasons we saw: decreased appetite, the competition for the nutrients, and what was the third? Because the absorption is impaired. So that causes decreased appetite. We also saw convulsions. Now we'll see the eye symptoms. Next page, please. So Santonin drug is mainly given for eye symptoms and urinary symptoms. So what causes the ocular infection, ocular parasitic infection? Now, there are many parasites which cause ocular infections. They cause ocular infection. So it can be through direct contact, or through bloodstream, or through congenital transmission, or through zoonotic transmission. Zoonotic is nothing but first the infection, the parasite lives in an animal like coronavirus. It was infecting the bat, then it infects the human. So through any means of transmission, the parasite can affect the eye. So now these parasite, adult or larval stages of these parasite, they may reside in the human ocular tissues externally or in the ocular globe, or they can be present somewhere else, but their effect is seen in the eye. So these clinical symptoms depend upon the etiological agent and the ocular part involved. So the pathology in the eye can be that can occur due to direct damage by the infecting pathogen, or indirectly by toxin products, immune mediated or ectopic localization of the ectoparasites. So as we saw earlier in the video, Genal, which Genal showed us. So in that case, the kid had the parasites within the eye. The parasites were inside the eye, and that was causing the eye symptoms and everything. But here in Ascaris, most commonly what is seen is these worms are not present themselves, present in the eye, but they are present in the GIT itself, or they are circulating in the GIT and in the blood. But because of their toxins and or the immune reactions, we see that the eye is getting damaged, and so we see the ocular symptoms. So same as like in convulsions, we don't have the worms themselves going and irritating the brain. So here also the worms don't go and irritate the eye. They release the toxins which causes the eye symptoms. So next page. An important and very interesting and fascinating symptom which Clark has written down is that there is colored vision. Yellow soup looks red, blue evening sky looks green, objects look green, white looks yellow, objects as if in yellow light. So it's like seeing through a cellophane paper, a color cellophane paper. Everything looks green or everything looks yellow. So anybody knows what this is called? Even I didn't know what it is called. So we'll see. It is called, next page, as chromatopsia. So chromatopsia is defined as a visual defect in which colored objects appear unnaturally colored or colorless objects appear tinged with color. So it can be synopsia in which everything looks blue. I hope these GIS are not too disturbing, but they were Avenger GIS, so I put them anyways. So, and there's chloropsia, which is green, everything looks green, or erythropsia red, or xanthopsia yellow. So now any idea how this happens? What causes this? Or to be exact, what part is getting damaged? Any idea? Okay, so here's what I thought. I thought that this must be because of the retinal damage, but we'll see. Next page. It is mainly because of the damage to the areas of visual cortex. The visual cortex itself is damaged, which causes the things to appear colorful, red or green or blue. So it can be caused by drugs or disturbance of the optic centers. It can be also caused by cataract extraction or dazzling lights. But in this case, it is caused because of worms and their toxin products, which affects the visual cortex, which makes everything appear blue or green or any color. And if we repertorize the symptoms that everything appears green, we can see four main drugs in synthesis having 3 marks. There is Sina and Santoninum, of course. Other drugs are arsenic and phosphorus. So now it is really interesting. I saw few of the cases on the internet where it is seen that few patients, when they wake up in the morning, after they wake up, everything looks green. for 4-5 seconds. After a few seconds, it goes down. Everything looks normal. But for a few seconds, everything appears green. Now, it is seen that these patients could be diabetic. So we have a nice correlation between the symptoms that diabetic patients can have this after they wake up because the visual cortex is not supplied by brain proper is not supplied by oxygen properly, so that causes everything to have a greenish tinge. And phosphorus is a good drug for diabetes. So if we have any patient who says कि सुबह उठ के थोड़ा 4-5 सेकंड के लिए सब ग्रीन दिखता है and everything then looks normal, so we need to check blood sugar. If they don't have any history of drugs, so nothing causes that, so we can check blood sugar, so and we can give phosphorus to that patient. All right, next. So another symptoms, a very common symptom, bruxism, that is clenching of teeth and grinding of teeth. So again, it could be because of the metabolites and the toxins produced by the worms. And it is most commonly seen in Enterobius ascaris and ascaris. Okay, next slide. And cystitis, as we said, this drug is main for eye symptoms and the urinary symptoms. So here, what could cause cystitis possibly is the worms. They may enter the genitourinary tract through the transurethral. They may enter, or enterovesicular fistula. They may enter through that. So that causes a frequency, painful urination and hematuria. So here the worms enters the bladder and all the genitourinary passages. Okay, so now we'll see the comparison. So first drug is teucricum. It is mainly for threadworms. There's crawling in rectum after stool. There is expulsion of ascarites, frequent itching and tingling around the anus. And mainly there is nightly restlessness and crawling. So if we know the life cycle of threadworm, we can easily correlate this with that. Threadworms, what they do, they come out at night and they lay eggs around the anus. So we have mainly the rectal and the anal symptoms in this drug. So we have a typical picture of a child who is itching or scratching their butts at the night. And I don't have a picture or GI for that, so here I put a picture of an animal. It's quite cute too. So we have we don't even have to learn the modalities. Once we know that this drug is for teucricum, we can easily correlate. Okay, teucricum, the female comes out at night, lays eggs around anus, that causes itching. So we can, we don't even have to remember that. We'll know that. Next slide. Sena. So this drug is the alkaloid of Sena. So we have more or less the same symptoms. The convulsions, the abdominal irritation, the itching of anus, grinding of teeth. So we have more or less the same symptoms. But santonin is mainly for the eye and urinary effects of the worms. Next. Natrum phos, again worms. There is acidity, picking nose, occasional squinting, that is strabismus, pain in bowels, restless sleep. So how to differentiate this is that we see the constitutional symptoms. If everything is matching with natrum phos, then we can give natrum phos. And usually this is given as a specific drug, santonin or Sena, when we don't have many other symptoms. All right, next. Spigelia, this is the last comparison. We know it's time is over. It's beyond 1 o'clock. So there is itching and crawling, frequent ineffectual urging to stool. There is only ascarites. There is no threadworm and any other one. This is mainly given for ascaris. So there is mainly colic, all the abdominal symptoms and diarrhea. Next. So this is in short how to remember them. In santonin, there is eye urinary symptoms and ascaris and threadworms. Because of those, in Sena, again, all the worms causes the infection, and there we have more abdominal symptoms along with respiratory and CNS symptoms. CNS is convulsions. Then we have teucricum, that is threadworms, which causes mainly the anal symptoms. And natrum falls again has all the symptoms. So here in teucricum, there is, we can remember it as T and T, threadworm and teucricum. So we'll come to know that there is only anal symptoms, no abdominal or respiratory symptoms. Then natrum falls again has mainly abdominal symptoms, and spigelia again abdominal and anal symptoms. Here it is caused only by Ascaris. Okay, so further will be continued by Shaili.
Okay, so let's see the indications of Santoninum mother tincture. Clinically, it is used for worm infestations. The symptoms include of unquestioned value in treatment of worm diseases as GI irritation, itching of nose, restless sleep, and twitching of muscles, Ascaris lumbricoides, and threadworms. The dose is given as Santoninum 1x, 2 grains, 4 doses in a day. Next slide, please. Let's see two cases which were treated by Dr. Vanita. 34 years of female homemaker comes with the chief complaints of worm infestations for many years. Her son also had same complaints. For every single question asked, she would have reference of her worms. There were no PQRS in case as such. The prescription was Santoninum 30 repeatedly, and she passed a large number of worms after the medicine. Next slide. Case 2 is of similar as of case 1. 40 years old mentally challenged man had same complaints of worms since many years. The Santoninum was prescribed and it worked very well. Next slide. So the prescription was based on absence of any finer symptoms for constitutional prescription. Here we learn that alkaloids are used when the totality of symptom matches with respective plant or fruit in broader totality. So Santoninum in short is the alkaloid of Senna, clinically used in worms, cataract, convulsions, diarrhea, enteritis, urticaria, cough, epistaxis, enuresis, choking, nausea, vomiting, and yellow vision. Alkaloids are generally used when PQRS are not often found in case, but it matches with the respective source in broader aspect. So thank you everyone for listening us. Thank you Vismaya for presenting behalf of us, and thank you Dr. Vanita ma'am for giving us the opportunity to present the drug. Thank you.
Okay, so well done. Very